Hello, gang. I am continuing from last week, our meal prep info. Today's topic is carbs, and with all the different diets vilifying carbs these days, it's hard for people to figure what is what. Today, I want to go over the 5 reasons why carbs are not always the enemy. We have to give carbs a bit of slack, guys. So, number 1 reason, all carbs are not created equal, and this is the most important because there's refined carbs, and those are the carbs that are found in like sweets, your biscuits, your cakes, your sugar, and your white foods like your white bread, your white pasta, and your flour. Now, these carbs are composed of simple sugars, which are broken down and absorbed quickly into your bloodstream, and they contain little to no fiber. So what that happens is, like, when people say, oh, white carbs are bad, what they're telling you is that it's because it messes with your blood sugar. So when you mess with your blood sugar, insulin is released more. This will affect your cravings, and especially spike your sugar cravings. And it also has a spike in energy crash with your energy, and all of that can affect weight gain. So when people think of like refined carbs or white carbs, they consider it to be empty calories. But in any event, carbs, whether refined or unrefined, they provide people with energy. So if you're going to exercise and use that energy, it's totally fine. The second so then with refined carbs, there's complex carbs, right? So refined is the white stuff, the sugar stuff, and then your complex carbs is your I don't want to say good carbs, but your better for you carbs. And what most people don't realize is that fruits and vegetables are carbs and complex carbs because they are carbs that are higher in fiber, and they're digested and absorbed by the body more slow. So everything has to do with digestion and insulin response. So you have stuff that you eat that will spike insulin, release more, increase cravings, decrease energy after you eat them. And then you have carbs that will not have as much insulin release in your bloodstream, that are slowly digested and absorbed by your body, that will give you more sustained energy over the period of time, and also more fiber. So basically, complex carbs are the carbs that you want to be like your go-to carbs more, right? Like you want to choose more complex carbs than refined carbs, and those include your whole grains, so your wheat stuff, your brown stuff, your legumes, so beans. A lot of people don't think legumes is different, but legumes and beans, that's a part of the carb family. Your nuts, your fruits, and your vegetables. Okay, so that's more the science part. I'm not saying that, food, all carbs, they're delicious, and it's not saying don't eat any white carbs, just that in the whole scheme of things, that if you're doing like an 80% 80-20 rule where you try to eat whole food well most of the time, then you try to choose 80% of the time complex carbs, and then the other 20% time you go to town on the fun good carbs, which is all the white sugar stuff, right? The second reason why carbs are not the enemy is because vegetables are carbs. Okay, a lot of people don't think about vegetables being carbs, but vegetables are packed with all those health boosting vitamins, the minerals, the phytonutrients, and your fiber and your antioxidants. So if you're not eating enough, you're going to have low energy, and other things that can happen too, like a deterioration in your skin, your nails. So the rule of thumb is, of your plate, last week we talked about quick and dirty meal prep in terms of your portion, right? Palm portion of protein, palm portion of carb, that could be your starchy carb, palm portion of vegetable, and that palm portion of vegetable could be unlimited, multiple palms portion of vegetables. So the rule of thumb is fill at least half your plate every meal with vegetables, and try to just add color and variety. Another thing is that when you have carbs, have fiber. So especially your complex carbs. Now, remember we said your refined carbs, your simple sugar carbs, they don't have any fiber. And if you want evidence, all you do is you look in the back of like a package of an unprocessed carb, like a muffin or a candy bar or a slice of cake or a cupcake, and you'll see that the fiber is very little, versus if you go to a complex carb like a whole grain bread or a brown rice, the fiber count is a lot high. So the whole part of why carbs are beneficial is because fiber, complex carbs contain fiber. Fiber is important in digestive health. So basically, fiber helps keeping things moving along in your gut. It also provides a good source of bacteria, good bacteria for your gut. And with that, with a balanced gut, you're just able to like detoxify your body naturally. You're able to regulate your appetite, your hunger. You're able to improve your immunity, and it can also affect your mood. I mean, some of us may have experience where if you eat like a candy bar, you get like a sudden 3 p.m. afternoon crash, and then you may seem sleepy, or you need another boost of sugar to get your energy up again, and then that lasts for a really short window. So just the rule of thumb for that is the higher the fiber content of a food, the less impact it will have on your insulin levels, and the less impact it will have on your cravings. So higher fiber is better. Another thing that a lot of women especially don't realize, especially now with all the craze about low carb diet, keto, all that stuff, is that carbs actually improve sleep. So there's a bunch of studies out there. They found that when women go on too low carb of a diet for too long of a time, it starts messing with your hormones, your estrogen, your progesterone, all your hormones. And that will in turn affect your sleep. And now research all these days have been telling us that sleep is actually super important, like more important than we ever thought in terms of hormonal regulation and also weight and body fat regulation. So nowadays with my clients, I dive heavy into their sleep cycle and their sleep habits. And if there's a major disconnect or some glaring issues there, we try to tackle the sleep side of it before we go into anything like exercise and diet. I tell clients that if your sleep is shitty and you can't get on some kind of like good sleep regimen, then all of our exercise work and all of our work on the food part is like for none, because sleep is a lot more important than we've ever thought, So why is carbs help us sleep? I mean, carbs we know make us happy, but how do they affect our sleep? So because you have these chemicals in the brain, right? And carbs are required to uptake these chemicals in your brain, tryptophan, okay? So it's just an amino acid that is found in foods like nuts, seeds, yogurt, turkey. And basically this tryptophan is converted in the brain into this sleep-inducing substance, right? That we know of, serotonin and melatonin, right? You've heard of those compounds before, right? A lot of supplements, especially natural sleep aids, will have the melatonin to kind of help you sleep. But what I try to do is with my female clients is if sleep is an issue, instead of reaching for a supplement, even if it's a natural supplement with melatonin, we try to work on the food part to increase their carbs. So a good rule of thumb that I try to do, if you're having trouble sleep, you should have, and I know this goes against everything that people talk about, okay? Like eating before bed, eating carbs before bed, eating right before you go to sleep. But the rule of thumb I want you to work on if you have trouble sleeping is a good intake of complex carbs an hour before bed can actually improve your sleep, okay? So if you've been doing a low carb diet for a really long time and your sleep schedule is all off, try to add at least maybe 30 to 40 grams. It's not a lot, maybe 2 slices of bread, a half a cup of rice, a half a cup of oatmeal, an hour before bed, and see how that like regulates your mood, how that regulates some of your your sleep pattern, if that has any effect, okay? And the final reason why carbs are not our enemy is, I'm not sure if you've been in the diet culture for a really long time, or the low carb diet food frenzy. People will say the rule of thumb is your brain actually only needs 20 grams of carbs to function, but your brain needs some carbs to function, like for memory. And you'll talk to a lot of people who are dieters, especially competitors, or they have this thing called like brain fog while they're deep into their prep, because their diets may be so low carb, like maybe almost zero, maybe less than 20 gram carb, and they're, besides the regular stuff like irritable, hangry, you start to like forget stuff, your short-term memory, your reaction time, your energy, all that things get affected because carbs, people, they're brain food. And I'm not talking about Twinkies and pie and ice cream. I mean, there is a part in your diet for that. You know, we're not trying to take anything away, but good, complex, unrefined carbs like the rice and the pasta and the whole wheat pasta and the quinoa, your brain needs some carbs because the carbs, they're broken down into glucose. Glucose is just a fancy word for sugar. We use sugar for fuel, not only for our physical bodies and our muscles to exercise, type, talk on the phone, carry our kids, put away groceries, but your brain needs that glucose to concentrate, to make decisions, to recall information. All of that can be affected if you're on extremely low carb. And you know, everyone thinks about this 20 grams because that's what studies show. But gang, we are so individual and unique. Every body, B-O-D-Y, is so different in terms of genetic makeup, hormonal panel, hormonal regulation, sleep schedule, stress, household, all this environmental factor, physiological, that this 20 grams, I personally believe that every person is different in terms of their threshold on how low carb can they go and how high carb they can go, depending on their unique body. And this is stuff that I work with my clients as well, because you got to kind of figure it out. It's not like black and white. And even for that same body, B-O-D-Y, that same person, that same client that I'll work with, it's not even the same week to week maybe. You know, your hormones change daily. You have hundreds of hormones, man, and it changes daily. So this kind of stuff, like your carb intake, may have to change daily just depending upon where you're at, you know. But basically, there was one study where, you know, they placed, like, women were placed on a low calorie, low carb diet. Okay, so they were put on a calorie restricted low carb diet for 28 days straight. And those ladies on the calorie restricted low carb diet, they scored the worst on these series of memory tests and recall tests. So what that showed us is that low carb intake, there's a threshold that too low carb of an intake may actually impact your short-term memory. So again, with that being said, gang, there's so many other reasons. I think a lot of women get fearful of carbs basically just because of the marketing of all different diets have been out there. I'm not saying I'm very like about balance, and I feel like individual. So whenever my clients come, it's always like we have to figure out what food and fitness plan will work best for their person, their unique body. Some people, you know, do well on low carb and their function fine. Their memory's fine, their mood's fine. Some people function really well on high carb. Just like how you may know some people function fine on a vegetarian or vegan diet, and that's their jam. Whereas if some of my clients try to go vegetarian or vegan, I mean, we're just like, we're losing iron, they're losing their period, they're bruising easy, they just feel shitty all the time. So again, this is all like so unique, and it's a trial and error in terms of trying to figure out what scenario, food and fitness scenario, works best for you. So if you're currently like on a low carb diet, I just want to make sure that, you know, you're regularly checking in with your doctor, that you're getting your blood panel work done, and that ask yourself, is this sustainable for you for long term? Do you feel satisfied? Are your hunger, energy, and cravings in check, like manageable? Are you getting the performance results or aesthetic results or whatever goals you have for going low carb? Are you getting those results from this? And can you see yourself doing this eating style for life? Because that's what it's all about, right? What are you going to do on a consistent, habitual basis that is sustainable and well balanced? Thank you for listening to me. Have a great week, gang. We averted Douglas, so now it's just hella humid. Have a great day. Bye. Hello, Joyce. Hello, Angel. Hello, Marissa. Hello, Brenda. Have a great day. Bye.